Hi guys! Today I'm gonna show you one of my favorite neighborhood in Seoul.
Just outside Hanjeong University Station, you will find one of my favorite hidden neighborhoods in Seoul. It's not the kind of place most first-time tourists would think of visiting, but if you want to see quieter, deeper side of Seoul, I think you are going to love this neighborhood. So today, I want to show you Seoul the way I like to explore it, one neighborhood at a time. Welcome to Seongbuk-dong. Before we really start exploring, there's somewhere I recommend stopping by first. This is Seongbuk History and Culture Center. Seongbuk-dong has many small tourist sites hidden between older sites. So this little center is actually a great starting point. You can pick up a neighborhood map, learn about Seongbuk's history, and find places that you might otherwise miss. So map acquired, let's explore. Here is our first piece of history. This is the Seoul City Wall.
This neighborhood is famous for Seoul Fortress. In the Joseon Dynasty, Seoul was called Hanyang. The king wanted to protect the Hanyang, so it's called Hanyang Fortress. You can also see the part of the Hanyang Fortress in this area.
The wall was originally built to protect the capital, and more than 600 years later, parts of it are still standing. And people here don't necessarily treat it like some distant historical monument. They walk their dogs here, exercise here, they go for evening walks here. History really part of the neighborhood.
I think it's really good part of Seoul.
I was walking down the street and found this old school stationery shop, and I feel like I have to go in. And this reminds me so much of being in elementary school. The owner told me she's been running this little shop here for around 30 years, selling school supplies to kids. In Korea, we call shop like this a 문방구. When I was a kid, I'd come to place like this to buy pencils and notebook. Honestly, I came here for toys, stickers, and snacks. So obviously, I had to become an elementary school student again. I bought a 말랑이, one of those soft squishy toys that are popular with kids.
또 올게요. 감사합니다.
I asked the owner of the stationery shop if there was any food I absolutely had to try in Seongbuk-dong, and she recommended this place. Apparently, it's been loved by locals for a long time. This restaurant is known for local specialty called Seongbuk-dong 돼지갈비. The lady told me to come here. I'm definitely saving this one for my next visit. But today, I already have somewhere else in my mind for lunch. Let's go!
This is where I'm gonna have lunch today. It's like a someone's house, right? And I searched for it and then it said it's really famous brunch shop. And let's go!
One thing I love about Seongbuk-dong is that many cafes and restaurants don't feel like typical commercial space. Some are hidden inside small houses or renovated residential buildings. And this place has exactly that feeling. It's almost feel like you are visiting someone's house in a quiet neighborhood.
Guys, so I made it here. Here is called Deli and Eatery. Deli and Eatery. I ordered some food, which is basil pesto tartine. I ordered anchovy crumble garlic oil pasta. And I'm so excited. I only one who's sitting in the terrace. It's pretty hot in here, so that's why there's no one around me. Cheers.
The pasta was made with fresh noodle, so texture was so much softer than typical dried pasta. And I genuinely think this was one of the best pasta I have in a long time.
This pasta is insanely fresh. I think I can drink this whole oil. Actually, this pasta is way better than pasta I ate in Italy, for real.
The basil sandwich was fresh and light, and sitting outside of the terrace made me feel I'd escape Seoul for an afternoon.
I'm done eating. I 100% want to recommend here. The food was so good, and this vibe is amazing, and I also want to come back again to see other menu. Okay, shall we go to another place?
Lunch is done, and in Korea, you know what happens after lunch? Coffee. So let's go to our next stop. This place is called Seonjam, and the name actually comes from a piece of Seongbuk-dong's history. During the Joseon dynasty, silk was extremely important at this time. At Seonjam-dan, rituals were held for silkworm farming, praying for successful silk production. That's why you'll notice reference to mulberry leaves and silkworm around this cafe. Silkworm eats mulberry leaves, so the cafe took the piece of neighborhood history and turned it into its concept. I really like when cafes do this. Instead of just opening a pretty cafe anywhere, they take inspiration from the history of the neighborhood. It makes the place feel like it belongs here. And there's another reason some people know this cafe. Blackpink Lisa has visited here as well. So I'm ordering their signature mulberry leaf avocado. I've never had mulberry leaves ice cream before. It doesn't taste like normal ice cream. It's slightly earthy and herbal, almost like eating new kind of Korean tea flavored ice cream.
안녕. 쉬고 안녕.
Our next stop feels completely different.
Guy, cat is following me.
This small traditional house is called Simujang. Simujang was the home of Hanyongun, independence activity during the Japanese occupation of Korea. There's something unusual about this house. Traditional Korean houses generally prefer to face south because they receive more sunlight. Simujang faces north because if the house faces south, it'll face toward the Japanese colonial government building. Han Yong-un was also a famous poet, so I wanted to sit here for a moment and copy down some of his writing by hand. For a little while, I tried to imagine what he might have seen for this house and what he might have been thinking while writing here. It was actually quite peaceful. Apparently, the mosquito of Seongbuk-dong do not respect historical reflection. Our final destination is Gilsangsa Temple. According to my map, I can walk there. Great! Technically, the map wasn't lying. Yes, I can walk there. But can and should are very different words.
와, 진짜 어마어마하다.
If you're visiting Gilsangsa, there are local buses that take you much closer. So please take the bus. I'm suffering, so you don't have to. But some interesting happened while I was walking. Within just a few blocks, the scenery completely changed. I went from narrow, steep residential alleys to luxury villas, private residence, and diplomatic buildings. And this contrast is actually another part of Seongbuk-dong. Some parts still feel like an old hillside neighborhood. Others are among Seoul's most expensive residential area.
It's super hot in here, so I'm sweating right now. Do not walk like me. Please take a bus or taxi. It's gonna save your life.
After surviving that hill, I finally made it.
Isn't it amazing? A few minutes ago, I was in the center of city, but now I'm surrounded by nature.
There are trees everywhere. I could hear water, bird, temple bell, and it's almost hard to believe I'm still in Seoul. Today, we walk past 600 years old city wall, an old stationery shop, a loyal silk-making ritual site, the home of independence activities, some of Seoul's most expensive houses, and now we're ending a day inside Buddhist temples surrounded by trees. And somehow, all of those completely different stories exist in the same neighborhood. This is probably my favorite things about Seongbuk-dong. I hope it helped you understand Seoul a little more deeply. If you like to discover Korea through the eyes of a local, subscribe and come explore another neighborhood with me. I'm Dae, your Korea curator, and I'll see you in next neighborhood. Bye!